Alright, so we've opened up our high school student no experience Google Docs resume template inside Google Docs. And the first thing that I'd like to show you is the View Document Outline. So very quickly we can take a look, an inventory of all the things that we have included in our resume. So the first thing, obviously, our name, which is the title of the document. And each subsection, the first being the objective, these are all going to be heading 1. So after the objective, we have our skills and knowledge section, and then our volunteer work, and then listing down our education at the bottom. Now each entry under the volunteer and education section will be heading 2. So again, quickly we could just move on to whatever entry we have under those sections. So again, just a quick way to get an idea of everything that is going to be in the resume. So again, just going through, we have our title with our contact information. At a minimum, we would want to include the city and state, a telephone number that we know we are going to answer, even if it's a funny looking number, our email address, and if you'd like, you can also include a URL link to your LinkedIn page. And so this high school resume is going to start off with an objective. Now the problem with most objectives is that they are not written well. However, if you feel that the word objective is going to be off-putting to the person looking at your resume, then you can use some type of phrasing like resume summary. Because really that's what a good objective or professional summary, if you had professional experience, is. It's a quick way that highlights the best parts of your resume that are still to come, and it keeps the employer interested to want to read more. So a good objective for somebody that is a high school student or that has recently graduated, maybe taking some college classes now, you want to summarize any type of skill or knowledge or ability that you learned through your education. And hopefully that skill, knowledge, ability is directly related to the job that you are applying for. Okay. So that's going to be our objective. Next we are going to look at the skills and knowledge section here. So this is 2 columns of 8 bullet points. Again, if you have less or more, that's perfectly fine. You can add them on here. And these are the types of technical skills that the job listing is calling for. Now, if the only type of skills that you can think of are things like being on time, being organized, being able to use Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office, or any other type of software that is not specialized, you may want to forego this section altogether and include those types of skills or abilities either within your education listing or within some type of volunteer work or hobby where you learned those skills. The skills and knowledge section should be, again, for very targeted technical skills that probably took you some time to learn, either, again, through your education, through some volunteer work. So for example, if you were going to be applying to be a medical assistant, a skill or knowledge that you would need to have to do that job would be drawing blood. All right, now that type of skill is only going to be useful, in that medical field, being a medical assistant. So it's very targeted to the actual job that you are applying to. It's not one of these general skills. Now, having said that, as you probably have noticed as a high school student or graduate, you're not going to have a lot of these skills. I know that there are programs in high schools that are based on technology or specialized areas. If you have that, great. If not, try and see what you're able to learn through being self-taught, through a hobby. Say a programming language could be one of these examples. But anything, again, that's going to be hyper-targeted to the job you're applying for. All right, next we have the volunteer work section. Now, this is pretty open in terms of it can be you went on a weekend and worked with a local church or a local organization. You worked at a food bank for 1 or 2 days, or it can be something that is ongoing that you do every weekend. Maybe it's like a trash cleanup in certain parts of the town. Maybe it's working with certain nonprofit groups. Whatever it is, again, what you are really trying to put and list as your bullet points underneath is specific skills, abilities, and tasks that the employer you are applying for is asking for. And so it's not always going to line up. However, if you feel that during your volunteer work or through a hobby or even through, say, mowing lawns when you were 14, 15, 16 years old, what are the things that are what we call transferable skills? So things that, being able to keep a book of how much you are owed, what you've done, going back to the lawn mowing example, how can that translate to if you were looking for kind of an entry-level secretary job, being able to keep communications in order, things of that nature. So you have to start being creative and say, well, I didn't just mow lawns every weekend. What did I actually do that's useful in the real job world? It's not just, I know how to use a lawnmower. It's, I learned how to add customers. I learned how, my sales ability to say, this is a deal and I can do that for you. So you have to start thinking of all those little things that employers are looking for that you have already done or you've at least started to do and learn. And then lastly, we have our education section. Now, it's often the case that I see people who are still in school or who are recent graduates like to list their education at the top. Now, you are certainly free. Once you've downloaded this resume, it's yours. Please feel free, play around with it. You can mess with the order of things, margins, things like that. Just go to town on it. However, I would advise generally against the education section being at the top, especially for a high school student or a recent graduate, because it's usually the least transferable. It's the least relevant to what the employer is looking for. Unless you went to a really specialized high school where you're going to use specific skills you learned there for the job, then I would generally say if that's not the case, then you can bring it down to the bottom, still trying to find things that where your schoolwork and the potential job, what do those things have in common? You still need to do that and still come up with some bullet points, because as you can see, if we don't have this section here, it can get kind of there's more of a blank space at the bottom. So we still do want to include as much as we can here. However, putting it at the top is, I think, going to be discouraging to some employers, because generally after the heading, after we've told them the resume summary, we want to get in directly to the skills and any work, even if it's just volunteer work, that is going to be that we as a job seeker are going to be able to apply to help their company. And usually the skills and any work we've done is going to be far more relevant than our education. Okay. So again, if you're checking this out, you can view the link in the comments where you can download this resume absolutely free. If you have any questions about how to use this resume, leave them in the comments. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.